Happy New Year. Well, yeah, 2020, last year was a crazy year. It was crazy because, we have never prepared for what came to us. Definitely that year, in business side, lots of billionaires came up. But in general, it was a really difficult year for most of the medium size and small size companies. And that's the problem. And this year, 2021, is far from over. So at least mid of this year, the same thing will continue. And I have seen lots of businesses, getting closed, and lots of problems. Lots of people became jobless. Situation is improving. I mean, we are trying to come to the normalcy, but it's not that we are anywhere close to where we are. And this pandemic, what the lifestyle it has brought to us, is definitely different. So if we have to come back to where we were, or maybe beyond that point, we have to change a lot. Okay, um, so given that situation, we have to adapt the technology because see, we have a drastic change in our lifestyle, how we do business, how we work. Lots of things have changed. I mean, in 1 hour, it's a very difficult to adapt this change because we were never prepared to take this drastic changes in just one go. I mean, we always evolved in a slow pace. We have taken the technology, we have changed our lifestyle. If we compare the lifestyle what we are living now, I mean, even before the pandemic, and if you take the lifestyle 50 years back, was completely different. But it didn't come in in 3 months or 4 months or 1 year. The change we adopted came gradually, slowly. But what this pandemic brought us is a drastic change, and we pushed to adapt those lifestyles. And definitely that is going to affect our businesses. Big businesses may find a workaround, and because they have the infrastructure, they have other things, they have more resources to deal with that. But the small and medium sized companies uh, or businesses, they are having difficulty, and definitely the difficulty is real. This hardship can be overcome only with technology. Not only with technology, definitely we need some other management decision making, management policies, and some other workaround like marketing and all. But technology is a very important part. I mean, if we don't adapt the technology in a way that should give us a sustainability in our business, then no matter how much money we pour in, how much structural change we make, how much management policies we take, it's not going to help us. And the fun part is there is no magic one technology. There is no all for one technology. There's several technologies, and the different technology should be used based on each business requirement. So if you take the emerging technologies which can boost really boost businesses, I mean, which can really support businesses and put us back into that position where our businesses will be thriving. But there are several emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, ML, and of course the realities XR, what we say, that maybe AR, maybe VR, maybe mixed reality. So that kind of technologies, IoT. So all these technologies are there. Mm, but not a single technology we can say that is all for one. I mean, one for all technology, that you pick just the technology and apply in each and every business. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. So for that, we have to pick the technology we want to in. First, we have to check our business cases, and then we have to uh, evaluate which technology fits in perfectly. Then we have to pick the technology. But there are few technologies, whose coverage is much wider. I mean, say if you take IoT, it's having its own application, but its use cases are much limited than if you say take AI or blockchain. So I'm going to talk about these two technology today, mostly in blockchain, but also I'll touch AI here and there, because that is also a technology we cannot just overlook, because if you take the technologies, these emerging technologies, then definitely AI is the biggest one. I mean, it's even bigger than blockchain. Although I'm going to talk about blockchain, but it's very difficult to overlook AI altogether. So mostly I'll be talking about these two technologies, because the reach of these technologies and the applicability of these technologies in our businesses, which can take our businesses, the small and medium scale businesses, even the large scale businesses, to a different level, to in a state where we'll be thriving like before. Then these two technologies will play more crucial role than any other technologies. And in many small and medium scale businesses, the technologies like IoT or XR have very little role. I mean, there are very specific use cases where we can use those technologies, but blockchain and AI is much widespread. I mean, a lot more can be adopted. I mean, a lot more businesses and the business categories can adopt these technologies and can be really benefited out of it. I mean, AI everyone knows about. I mean, your camera, from your mobile's camera app to large scale, I mean, Google's AlphaFold. So everyone is using AI. So AI is more common. I mean, to us. We go anywhere, we open up any website, we see chatbot, and so we can see that that AI is getting implemented everywhere, in one form or another, maybe very very small and very very not so deep AI, very light form, and some are really heavily AI dependent solutions. But blockchain, on the other hand, is not that widespread. I mean, whenever we say blockchain, the lots of things come in our mind. First thing it hits our mind is Bitcoin. Then maybe other cryptocurrencies, and then as Indian, it hits our, oh my God, blockchain is banned. I mean, cryptocurrencies are banned. Blockchain. So somehow uh, we have mixed blockchain with cryptocurrencies, and that's the problem. Yes, there's a valid reason for it. I mean, blockchain has started this journey. I mean, the way we are seeing it, the way we are getting it, uh, blockchain has started its journey with definitely cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin, and it has put its footprint much stronger in fintech segment than any other segment. But definitely that's not all what blockchain is all about. So blockchain can be implemented in many areas, in many different business sectors, and in many different ways. It doesn't have to be in one way or in a way we already have seen blockchain performing. So blockchain can be used in different shape and size, uh, but we have to pick the business how we want to do that, and how we want to implement blockchain, and how the blockchain can bring improvements to the business. It's not that we can use blockchain in each and every business. It's not that. I mean, it can't be. No technology can be used in each and every kind of businesses. So we have to pick. First, we have to take the use cases, and first we have to pick the business. We have to check whether it's feasible to use blockchain, whether we really need the blockchain or not to improve the business, and then we can use blockchain. First thing we have to keep in mind that end of the day, blockchain is kind of database, you can say. I mean, it's not the traditional database system we use, but it's kind of database. We store our data, which is immutable data. So And the key point is the decentralization and immutability. So that is a key point where what we have to pick, where we have to check whether the business we are talking about, the business where we are planning to bring blockchain in, whether it requires that kind of database, I mean data storing solution or not. I mean, is really we need immutability. Do we really need this kind of decentralized solution? Because see, blockchain is decentralized. So that is the primary, you can say, attribute of blockchain. It's a DLT, distributed ledger technology. So it's distributed. It's distributed, the interledger, what you can consider as database is the same database is distributed among different nodes, multiple nodes, and uh, then whatever happens in that database, I mean, new entry comes in, so make it a transaction or something else, maybe some business logic gets executed through smart contract. Everything that executed in that database, that is blockchain, will be validated by all the nodes. So definitely, when we are talking about this kind of architecture, definitely it requires a few resources, I mean infrastructure resources. So whether we have to check whether we really need that one or not. Otherwise, if a business doesn't need, so you can take for an example, say a grocery shop, I mean a terminal grocery shop. Does it need really blockchain? I mean, we can push through, I mean, to make a point that yes, blockchain is everywhere, but if you think like that way, a terminal grocery shop doesn't need blockchain because it's never required. So we have to check. It's a case by case basis. But as I said earlier, like AI and blockchain is having a very wide scope of applicability. So its application level, the spectrum is much wider than any other technologies. Maybe not as wide as AI, but yeah, very pretty close to AI. I mean, if you go to the possibility to apply it to different kind of businesses. So it can be used in fintech, it can be used in logistics, but it can also be used in different part of governance and other businesses even. I mean, healthcare, education, you name it. I mean, if you pick all the major sectors, maybe it's a governance sector or the core business sector. All the major sectors can utilize blockchain quite efficiently, and definitely blockchain is going to improve the business or the operations. I mean, when we are talking about the governance, then definitely business that doesn't come into it. So when, but the operations come when we apply to the governance, then the reach of the governance, the transparency of the governance, the efficiency of the governance, goes multiple fold. I mean, then you get real benefit out of those systems. From those systems, people get benefit much more than being within the traditional system or some other. So definitely, blockchain has enormous possibility. Definitely not in all the sectors, all, not even for governance. If, blockchain doesn't have the scope for each and every part of the governance, but it has scope for most of the governance, most of it, and definitely the businesses as well. So all the major sectors, they can be benefited. And I mean, right now, I don't think it would be viable to describe about what we can do or how we can do. Maybe we can lightly touch on that. Like in fintech, it's already proven. You all know that the currencies that can be brought into blockchain, which is already there. and all many countries are trying, like China, European Central Bank, US, even India also trying to bringing the currency, the country's currency to blockchain. And blockchain can mitigate lots of things. That is very well known to the fintech. Even fintech in other sectors like banking sectors, blockchain can speed up the process a lot. I mean, whoever you do cross-border transaction, how it is with Swift, how much you have to pay for it, how long it takes time. So in fintech, blockchain has already established its viability. In logistics, on the other hand, also Bitcoin has proven its viability already. I mean, maybe it's not well known because the this technologies, these implementations doesn't make that kind of buzz like when Bitcoin makes. So when we say that Goldman Sachs has made this thing, then it becomes a big headline, and it creates a buzz. When Bitcoin passes $40,000, then it becomes a news, and everyone gets curious. But blockchain is slowly but steadily penetrating into different kind of business. Blockchain has tremendously powered the logistic. It has changed that industry a lot, and that all has been done behind the scene. But the logistic has been got benefited out of using blockchain as much as fintech did. So all the major shipment companies are using blockchain to tracking the shipments and all. The major benefit is the data immutability. You can understand that how the data can be safe and secure. The transparency, that is the main part. I mean, the data immutability brings the transparency. Transparency in the sense it cannot be changed. So the data you are once you are storing in blockchain is never going to change. And uh, based on the blockchain setup, the data always stays open. I mean, you can track the data. If it's a public blockchain, then anyone can go into blockchain. It may be a node explorer or something, any kind of API call. You can check through the entire transaction, what happened, how happened, when happened. So everything is transparent. There's nothing to hide. Nothing can be hidden inside the blockchain. But that brings, but there's comes another interesting part, that is anonymous at the same time. I mean, that's the beauty of the technology. I mean, it is completely transparent, but it can be, extremely anonymous. I mean, these two, two things, almost, in real life, we can think about in different form. And blockchain brought these two defined, this polarized points in one point. So that is the beauty of this technology, that you can make something completely anonymous yet being completely transparent. So with this power, lots of business can come in. And you see, the pandemic, the main point of where we started this discussion, that the pandemic brought us in is the hardship it brought us to our business can be mitigated with this kind of technologies. We can use AI to automate things to reduce the cost and all, and then we can use blockchain, to make our business less, to track everything properly, so we can track how things are going, where things are going. So we have very less loose ends. I mean, in terms of financial or in terms of operations. And also the same way blockchain can bring trust to the business. So if we add up to these things, there are many businesses, lots of businesses, sorry, lots of businesses who are actually depending on the traditional system, and where the customer doesn't know what's going on, what's going behind the scene. I mean, uh, see, if we take one example, real estate. Okay, I mean, there are so many things that goes wrong in real estate. I mean, the developers are developing the property, the entire big property on a unapproved, or maybe it happens in many countries that land has been mortgaged, but somehow the documents are forged, and the same land gets, or the property gets sold to some other person, which is completely impossible through blockchain, because the blockchain you cannot force. So once the data goes in, once you make a property, digital property which you bring into blockchain, you make it the mortgage to a particular uh, mm, maybe party, or you can say anyone, maybe mortgage to bank, then the same property you cannot forge, you cannot give it to any other, because whenever you query in blockchain, you can go through the transaction trail, you can follow the trail, and you can check how from the very origin. I mean, when the property has been registered in the blockchain, and entirely how the property got changed its ownership, how it got mortgaged, how it got leased. So everything will be crystal clear. And uh, so this kind of this kind of ambiguity, this kind of problems around the business will not be there. Then see, when even if you think us as a customer, as a buyer of a real estate property, how much validation we have to go through, and it's very difficult. I mean, if you are taking a property, and sometimes it takes long time to validate the property, whether the property is properly legitimate property or not, whether it's having any disputes or not, or anything. But you see that uh, with blockchain, we can do this thing, validation within a minute. So the inter-transaction, which takes from from starting up the deal to finishing it, to getting the property transferred, sometimes depending on the property, sometimes takes 6 months, 1 year, which can be done in maybe one day. And see, it will be saving time and money for both the buyer and seller. So this is one example, right? So we can do this kind of thing to mostly all the business sectors, and also in the governance, which is not so transparent, which is not so well validated, and which is not so focused um, towards the usability, towards how it can be more effective, um, more better performing. I mean, better performing that way. So blockchain, and once we bring these things into the business, then the business will start thriving, because our consumer will put the trust in our business. Then our operation will be much faster, then our the cost will be reduced, and hence will be increase in profit, as well as at the same time will be giving much more benefit to the consumers. Maybe it's a price benefit, maybe the convenience, maybe the entire process being fast and more efficient for consumer. So for in multi-directional benefit we can give to consumers. Well, I can see that quite a few questions came in, so I'll try to answer those questions. Let's see. So there's one question: how we can use blockchain in agriculture? That's a very good question, and there are pretty. I mean, quite a handful of companies who are working on, blockchain, bringing blockchain to the agriculture. Agriculture, I mean, blockchain can be used in agriculture in multiple ways. I mean, see, agriculture is a vast, you can say, the sector, And it has this. I mean, we can fragment it in different way. How we can use blockchain in agriculture. The first thing in agriculture, see, if you take the evolution of agriculture, we have started. If you go back, maybe a few hundred years, we used to cultivate in very natural way, and we used to produce some good food. Now with the technology and to increase, but at the same time, I mean, in past we were limited to the availability of the natural resources like rain or something. So that used to hinder our production. So to increase the production, we started doing bringing in technologies. Now more we kept bringing in technologies, but we overlooked several things like the technology we are bringing in. There are many technologies. What we brought in is good for agriculture. It benefited us immensely. But few technologies, definitely it improved the production, but it decreased the quality of food. Now see, you have the how much chemical pesticides, how much chemical fertilizers we are using, and how it definitely increased our productivity, increased our production, but it decreased the quality of food. With the increasing use of the chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizers, is poisoning us. So food has lost its purpose. The primary purpose of food is providing the nutrition to us. By default, naturally, we don't eat that is harmful for us. But right now, the food came to such a level that is, beside providing the nutrition, is providing us a little bit of poison to us. So nowadays, people are moving towards organic farming and all this, which is more scientific, which will be good on productivity. The production level will be much higher, minus the the harm, the harmful thing that we are taking in with our current food supplies. And also not to mention genetically modified, the GM and other food. Those are definitely giving the farmers a little bit of benefit in production, but not helping us as a whole general population much into getting good food, and which is having some adverse effect. So nowadays, I mean, maybe not in rural side, but in urban side, people are getting very concerned about the quality of food. Beside, because as a consumer, you don't much care about the productivity, because that is the concern of the producer, that is the farmers. But as a consumer, your primary concern is the product you are buying, whether is having the good quality or not. So now people are started paying attention to the organic farming and organic foods, and something that is not genetically modified, something that is having very minimum chemical interaction and all. So but how do you know? Because when something good comes in, the bad comes at the same time. So organic thing is good, but there's so many fraudsters who will be making the spurious organic, which is not organic. So how do you know which is organic and which is not? As a consumer, you cannot rely on something. I mean, if you buy a vegetable, so, if it's on the rack shelf, it's written organic. You cannot distrust, or maybe even if you pick it with the distrust or disbelief, you cannot just check. You are not a living laboratory to check the thing. So you need a point. You need a structure. How you can validate whether this is originally organic or not, from which farm it has been produced, how it has been transported, and where during the transportation if something happened or not. So there blockchain comes fits perfectly, and blockchain comes into the scene, in a gigantic way. And because when the producer is produced, they can bring that asset into the blockchain, and it can track down till the level where it hit the shelf. And as a consumer, you can validate from where it has been originated and what's its property. When a farmer or a firm is producing something in agriculture and putting in blockchain, then maybe they'll be putting in with all the attributes of what has been used, what is the procedure has been used to produce that thing, and then consumer will be knowing each and everything. And that's how the blockchain can be implemented in agriculture, and then that's how it can be improved. See, the point is, see, the production and the consumer is directly related. So once you give the consumer more confidence, then the production will get more, support, because then consumer will start adopting those things, buying those stuffs, and then the production will get improved, and production will get the necessary business it requires. And blockchain can ensure that the required confidence, which is the confidence which is required for the buyer to buy stuff, can be given by the blockchain. And once consumer get that confidence, consumer will definitely go into that. Consumer will pay for how much they need to pay for it. I mean, if you take say organic produce, for example, then user and the buyer will not hesitate to pay more for organic. Actually, most of us who are living in urban life, we are paying more, a lot more for organic, but with one uncertainty, that whether, even if it's a packaged food, if it's written organic, how do we know that it is really organic? How do we know that it's not mixed somewhere? So how do you know that? What blockchain can ensure? That's where blockchain comes into it. Okay, the next question: how blockchain effective in controlling air pollution? Well, that's a tricky one. I mean, blockchain can be used not directly to the controlling air pollution, because um, see, I mean, blockchain doesn't have the ability to mandate something or do something, right? It's a kind of database system. But what it can do, like when we start putting all the polluting factors in the blockchain, it could be cars. I mean, individual cars. It could be individual construction sites and individual factories which are polluting. So when we put everything into blockchain, all the polluting points to the blockchain, then the data has to be there. And what we can do, see, I mean, most of the cases, like for this, it's a good point. I mean, the question is very good, because for this kind of solution, and in social sector and in many point, even in business, we come into a problem where we need the combination of technologies, and that is the majority cases, that not one technology can solve a problem, because a problem which is coming in real life is consist of multiple factors. So one technology cannot give solution to, I mean, cannot mitigate all the factors. So we need a combination of technologies to give a solution to a particular problem. And for this problem, which is air pollution and controlling it, is if the blockchain can be merged and combined with IoT. So we can use some sensors, and we can read the data, and automatically we can send the sensor data to blockchain story. Now it becomes immutable data. So if a factory is polluting too much and the sensor is sending the data to blockchain, Now the factory owners or anyone, maybe a, official or anyone, cannot make any changes to that data. So it will remain public. So for this one, we need a public blockchain where all the data will be there, and from there we can see who is doing more pollution and who is not, and then the regulators, the controllers who can come into those points to push them to do the control. So they cannot. I mean, even this IoT solution or blockchain solution cannot bring down the air pollution directly, but it can provide the data which will be required to identify the problem and make a pressure on those points to bring down the air pollution. So in one, I mean, in passively, it can definitely do something to bring down the air pollution and improve things. I mean, in such environmental sectors, uh, all the technologies like AI or IoT or blockchain has their own space and scope to work, but of course passively, because they cannot provide any active solution to those problems. Okay, next one is our farmers have been protesting in our national capital. What solution do you think our agriculture can get from blockchain? Okay, I have already discussed about the agriculture. I mean, the usability of agriculture. That is one aspect actually mm, I discussed. There are several other which you can. I mean, from irrigation to the seeds to everywhere, the climate. I mean, everywhere we can use blockchain. I mean, the soil and everything, and definitely, the way I said is a bit of a mix of production and supply chain where the blockchain can be used as standalone technology. But other part where the agriculture is involved and where the blockchain and the technologies can bring in. There's several points that I have already mentioned. Cannot work as independent technology. It will come as more like combination of technologies. So with the help of IoT, AI, and blockchain, and doing the mix and match combinations, we can bring in solutions to agriculture. I mean, I don't think it has the. I mean, blockchain can help anything on that protest and that part, and I don't think any technology can do that. But that is a completely out of the scope of the technology. But if we take the agriculture sector as a whole, then yes, definitely blockchain and the AI, IoT, and that kind of combination, and of course, to some extent, XR as well, can provide a good solution and improve the productivity, and not degrading the quality of food. Okay, the next question is why the government is not executing blockchain still? That's a difficult question to answer, actually. I mean, um, I can take some guess because since I'm not anywhere related to any government, so I cannot say anything for sure. And it's not that governments are not, adopting blockchain; they're doing it slowly. Main reason, the governance is a very slow moving sector, and it has its valid point because bad decision or something wrong in governance can bring some adverse effect to the general population. So something before something, be it technology or any policy bringing into governance, the policymakers need to think repeatedly what could be the upside and what could be the downside of that implementation, and what effect it may bring in. And when you are adopting a technology or taking a policy, you cannot make sure 100% that everything will go positive. Something may go wrong, and that's how our life works. I mean, even in our personal life, or anywhere you take air disease. That decision definitely, no matter how promising it may look, there's a always a little scope of going something wrong. And then they have to, that's why they have to always check if something goes wrong and then how much it may go wrong. So for new technology, this deliberation, goes a bit longer because it's a new technology. The implementation is much lesser than any well-established technology. That's why you see all the technology, not only blockchain. You can see the AI implementation of AI in governance is very less. Why? Because sorry, because AI is not a very new thing. It's very old. I mean, from the almost from the beginning inception of the computer, the thinking of AI has started growing. So it's a very old one, but the AI, how it is right now, has been has been started developing in this millennium. So in that sense, it's new in its current technological form, and that's why you don't see it so much implemented in governance, because they have to check all the risk factors. So is for blockchain. And also, sorry, for the policymakers, it is very easy for us to say about a technology because we are a technologist, right? The policymakers are not the technologists. I know, I mean, they have the technologies in their panel, but when a panel consists of 10 people and 5 are technologists and 5 are not, then those 5 who are not technologists, for them to grasp the concept, it's very difficult. And they need a little bit more time. Although blockchain is very safe, and blockchain is you know very very beneficial technology. And uh, I mean, you see, every technology has, a shape where we can implement as good or as bad. I think blockchain falls into those categories where the bad is very, very less. I mean, almost ignorable. I mean, even I mean, if we implement it in right way, then the bad implementation is very, very extremely minimum. But the thing is, the initially how the blockchain has made an impression over the general population through Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. It made some negative impact, negative impression to general mindset. And as I told that, in policymakers there will be many non technological, non tech people, and to them the same general mindset or the psychology works. So it will take some time to for them to identify and discover the right the power of blockchain, how it can radicalize the inter governance and other social sectors. And I think and the work is going on that way, and a lot of government departments are actively looking into that. So in very short term, I mean, in a very short time period, I mean, in very near future, I'm very confident that we'll be seeing blockchain being adapted in almost all the governance and social sectors where it has the potential. The blockchain has potential to provide the maximum benefit. The next question is, can we use blockchain in education sector? Definitely we can. I mean, um, I think it is one of the sector like real estate, which requires the implementation of blockchain very much. And slowly, many government organizations, governments are realizing that, and they are implementing that. In education sector, there are the same problem lies like real estate, the validation. Like I mean, the countries like India, we have seen news that the government employee. after serving the service, say 15 years, they have been detected with a forged certificate. So these things will be definitely mitigated by blockchain because of the immutability nature, and that's how you cannot do changes. You cannot, what you got, and it will stay for the person's lifetime. And there comes the other benefits, like you see, when you make transfer from one university to another university, especially if it's a cross country, I mean if you're going for international education, international study, then the validation becomes even more difficult. There are lots of manual things, and lots of manual validations are involved, which takes a lot of time, and definitely not to mention money as well. And another part is the HR validation. When you are switching companies, you need your when you are joining a company, your current company needs to validate your entire educational history. They don't do entire educational history validation, but they do the key education validation. Why they don't do entire? Because you know. Because it would be even more difficult to validate. Even to validate, how much you got in your engineering degree or graduation degree, or maybe MBBS degree or any other degree that is relevant with your career. It takes the HR agencies so long. I mean, so much money, so much effort to validate only 2 3 degrees. Then imagine how much it will take for them to validate all the educational qualification you acquired in your lifetime, and all the diplomas and everything. But see, if they could do that, I mean, with blockchain, that is very much possible. If they could do that, then the HR agency, which will be the recruiters, would have much more, much more insight about the candidate. Because see, if you are hiring someone, if you are taking a particular certificate or particular degree, how much they perform, maybe in that part they were something different, and maybe in their entire educational journey they were something different. So to find out the potential of a person is much more if you get more data. It's just like statistics, or it's just like AI. I mean, the more the data you can get, the more accurate prediction or accurate analysis you can make. So you can always make the capability or the competence analysis much more for a person if you know the entire education history, than just have the record for 2 or 3 particular degrees. So in that way, blockchain is having enormous possibility. I mean, education is one of the sector that requires blockchain extremely badly. And I think many of the government has started realizing that the necessity of it. So Venezuela, sorry, Indonesia is starting. Brazil, they are evaluating. Several schools in Italy, specifically 2 schools, started putting their degrees, I mean the certificates in blockchain. And I think in near future, more and more educational institutes, the boards, educational boards, and the universities, and as well as governments will come forward to bring everything related to, I mean, certificates, maybe mark sheets, and all the educational journey of a person in blockchain. And then it will help everyone immensely, uh, in the education, in the career, everywhere it will help immensely. Next question is, how we can use blockchain in small industries. Well, it depends on the industry sector. See, every sector has a small scale units, medium scale units, and large scale units. Yeah, there are few uh, sectors who are not having very small scale units, like you can say automobile. So automobile industry doesn't have small scale. But see, in with the change like EVs are coming, we can see lots of startups are coming in. So at least we can say the medium scale. So it depends. I mean, which industry we are talking about. But every industry, if you say, I mean, if it's not service industry, then I think every industry uh, have the supply chain, which can be definitely brought into blockchain, and because lots of supply chain is getting brought into blockchain. So the supply chain can be brought into blockchain, and then apart from that, the operations or other factors of I mean other part of the business, bringing them into the blockchain, it requires I mean the study on that particular industry. So it's very difficult to say a particular solution for blockchain how it can be done in small scale industries. But if we I mean it will differ from particular sector to sector, but definitely it can be brought other than even logistics and supply chain. We can bring blockchain to small scale industries in different sectors.
How can we overcome from these limitations?
I'm not sure which limitations we are talking about, so it's difficult to answer me this question.
Let's move to next one.
Then, as you said, blockchain technology makes the record valid in the worldwide. It's really nice. Yes, it is really nice. I mean, the availability of blockchain, but still also it depends. I mean, I want to put that note as well that it also depends. Uh, how we are implementing blockchain, because blockchain uh, can be private, can be public, but it doesn't mean that private blockchain also we can make the private blockchain completely private, where no outsider can even validate the data. But at the same time, there we can make the private blockchain where the participating nodes and uh, the participating points can be private, where they need prior approval to join the bitcoin I mean blockchain, and send some data just to store it. But viewing I mean viewing making it public is completely possible. And in that way, I mean, whether it's a private blockchain or public blockchain, if the viewing is made public, then it can be validated anywhere, because anyway it stays in internet. So anything is in the internet is accessible worldwide. And many sectors, there are few sectors which are extremely domestic and only domestic. There are a few sectors which are only international, and there are many sectors which are mixed, like domestic and international. So any sector which is not relying on the domestic only can be benefited most out of blockchain, because even in current situation in conventional system, anything that involves cross border, I mean the transaction, shipment, anything, it requires a lot of time. And if it's even you see why it takes time when it's cross border, because we need to validate a lot of things. Even if you are sending a goods, right, in shipment, um, it takes a lot of time in custom clearance or similar kind of thing. So why would it require? Because they need to validate it, right? So when you bring it in blockchain, the data is by default validated because it is immutable. So if the who will be validating, they can start with that point that that data is valid. So see, I mean the major effort which we are putting in right now is mitigated at the very beginning, where we are putting the data into the blockchain. And that's how the blockchain can boost all these sectors immensely, because the data, the moment it's going into the blockchain, is pre-validated.
Okay, what do you think about digital locker in India?
Yes, digital locker. I mean, see, digital locker has been in different shape or form. I mean, I don't want to specify the name, but I came across two banks who used to provide. But still, the point is centralized. So something centralized means it is difficult, right? Because then it goes to a same point, and centralization has definitely some. Not some, a lot disadvantages. So that's why we came into democracy, right? So for technology and data also it applies the same, that we have to decentralize. But the thing is, when you are making a vault, then the uh, primary thing comes into mind is the privacy, because when you are making a vault, it has to be very secure and private. Security is not an issue with blockchain mostly, right? But the privacy is. And see how you want to keep your documents. I mean, you want to keep your normal documents, it's okay. You want to keep your financial documents, your land document, your other stuff, it's very confidential, very sensitive, right, in nature. And how if the data is scan data, how about the data is an image, or how the data is a PDF, or some other factor. How about I mean, this kind of thing we have to think about, some kind of encryption. It is very much possible. I mean, yes, you see, in currently in blockchain, what we save is most of the data is financial data, small transactions, so we can encrypt entire data, and few data where we save, we make partial data encrypted and the rest of the data non-encrypted. But when we start doing this, we have to come up with some efficient encryption model, because the most of the data, the fault which will be holding up, should be encrypted. And then the encryption and decryption for a large volume of file should be very efficient. It should not put too much effort. It should not break. It should not be extremely resource intensive. So, but definitely it's a doable thing, and I think it will come. It has a very good application, making a doc. I mean, the vault in blockchain. So we are definitely be able to see similar kind of solution in near future. Okay, one question. Can you ponder over supply chain management implementation of the. See, supply chain management sector, I have already explained a bit. I mean, you have to take it in just a little bit different way. How way I explained that, how you can identify crops are produced when it hit the shelf, right? When I was explaining agriculture, the supply chain comes into the same way. I mean, it's originate from one place and comes into other place, and it goes through several points. So you can track through everything, and that's what it is. I mean, right now it's very difficult to do it, and we can automate the entire thing, and we can check how the supplies how the supply in that chain, the from originating point to the distribution point, how it went through and where it went to and how long it takes. And it can be in a state where it cannot be modified, it cannot be changed. Like in current state, we our supply chain company says, okay, this is this. In some reason, for some reason, for their own problem, they have something, they go into their database, they change the reason, they dump their responsibility to someone else, and it goes. So you don't have the clear picture. But when you bring it to the blockchain, you see what it is actually. So the process is exactly same. Process is exactly same.
How can blockchain how can blockchain ensure proper safety?
Mm, well, blockchain can ensure safety, but I'm not sure which safety we are talking about here. If we are talking about the data safety, definitely it can. I mean, if we discount the all fuss about this quantum computing thing, and definitely there are blockchains which are quantum computer safe. And trust me, when the quantum computer will become mainstream, by the time we will be having quantum computing safe blockchains, because that by that I mean, long before that, we'll be getting lots of cryptographic algorithms which will be quantum computer safe. So, as of current scenario, blockchain is completely safe, and it can provide you the data safety at most, because it is uh, it is immutable. It is only mutable when you have control over the internet network. That's where the blockchain comes in. That's what the power of decentralization comes in. So if there are hundreds of nodes spread across the world, how can you take over the entire network, which is not practically possible, physically possible. And if you take over the part of the network, if you change the blockchain, the entire network is not going to accept those changes. That's what the power of blockchain. So that's how you get the safety, data safety uh, of your within the blockchain. And see, I mean, it depends on the implementation. It depends on the implementation. Even you can host your entire application in the blockchain in form of smart contract. And so yeah, maybe definitely it's not viable and it's not feasible, and it make no sense putting Photoshop on blockchain. But yeah, I mean, but small application can go there and be there and be totally safe. So, in terms of data safety, blockchain can provide you 100% data safety.
Does blockchain have a role in telecommunication?
Yes, why not? I mean, I don't know about I don't know much about other countries, but in India, we are more or less sure. I mean, very much familiar. I think at least 90% of the telco subscribers, like us users, have experienced in our life that we have been billed for the usage we never did. We have been billed for some add-on services we have never opted for. So the telcos do that to cover up their cost. I mean, so uh, if we implement blockchain, then it will be completely transparent. If we don't do something, they cannot do it. They can't just go to their database and update that I have, I have registered for a caller tune if I don't do it for myself. So that is very much possible. Well, it's very difficult to say whether they'll implement it or not, because it will be completely consumer centric and it will go against their interests. So, very difficult to say, but yes, if they do, consumers will be benefited immensely. Trust me. But yeah, I guess they'll be losing millions as well, which they cheat with people. I should not say that, but this is what it is.
Tell us about the scope of employment for non-techies.
Okay. See, blockchain, I mean, non-techies, I mean, you see, most of the time, whoever is watching this one, you are techie. If we are not techie, then you won't be able to open up your smartphone and open up the app and view this live video, or maybe the recorded one if you're watching it later. You are doing lots of technological stuff every day in your life, so you are techie, right? What you are what By techie, I know what you suggested, that the non-programmers or similar kind of technical. Of course you can do. I mean, see, You can see so many blockchain companies, development companies, right? I mean, even we are blockchain development companies. How many blockchain have we developed? How many? Did we? No, we have. I mean, there are so many solutions. So why don't we develop? Because there's no point reinventing the wheel. That's why. So what we do a little bit of programming, right? And also there are so many scope to implement in blockchain without doing the programming. Because blockchain itself is already programmed. You have one infrastructure, you have the node. So you have to put something on top of it. So you can implement right away with the solution. You can set up the network. Say setting up the network, setting up the a blockchain network. If you pick up a blockchain, you set up the blockchain network. Setting up the blockchain network is not very difficult. You don't have to be a system administrator. You don't have to complete a course of system administration or network administration. You don't have to have a certification of Cisco to set up a blockchain network. It's very easy. It's as easy as installing a software in your computer. So you can just grab those node out of in the internet. You just download it. You just follow the instruction, 2 3 steps mostly. In most of the cases, 2 3 4 steps. You follow those, and voila, your node is running. And you see, you can provide this one. That's how the employment come to the non-techies, I mean non-programmers or the engineers, more specifically, that you can provide this kind of service professionally to the blockchain adapters, to the companies, the small companies, right? Because you see, the big companies like large corporations, they'll definitely go and employ, contract with IBM or TCS or Accenture kind of, I mean, big. There will be small businesses who will also be having good scope for blockchain implementation. Like you see, there are so many small businesses. I mean, not very small, but small enough. I mean, to be called a small business, who are having multiple branches, right? Could be a food store, could be a restaurant chain. I mean, small chain, maybe having 3 or 4 setups and the branches, or it could be a grocery, and they won't be spending millions and millions in that. There we can come. They're the small. I mean, as independent freelancer or maybe small technological provider, they can come and go there. And they don't need to hire or employ some Cisco certified network engineers. So as a non-engineer, you can easily deploy those things, and that can bring the employment. That can bring employment to you, and same goes to, I mean, other sectors as well. So definitely, blockchain is not only for the techies. I mean, techies who can code or who can set up the routers or firewalls.
Okay. So, can blockchain be used outside the cryptocurrency world?
Yes, yes, definitely, and that's what we talk about. I personally believe that blockchain is having much wider application ability out of cryptocurrency. Even if you take fintech is a financial domain, right? Cryptocurrency is a very small part of it. So even if you, I mean, even I think personally that blockchain is having much more prospect out of fintech, not cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a very small part, really very small part. I mean, if you take the complete market capitalization of cryptocurrency, it doesn't even stand in any top 5 countries cap, right? So net worth. So it's nothing. Even if you take the entire fintech, the entire world's fintech, still blockchain is having much more wider applicability beyond that one. It can hit almost all the major, social sectors, industries, and governance. So you can easily guess how big its reach could be. Okay.
Kids are very eager to know about technology. Share us how blockchain can be helpful for them in education or any kind to support them.
Yes, in education, I already told. I mean, I mean, for individual, we cannot do, right. So it has to be come out from some higher level, like university or board or government, that we can start putting our records in the blockchain. So when a kid is starting their educational journey, say from some grade, maybe grade one or standard one, right? It doesn't have to be the certificate, I mean the mark sheet, because yeah, we don't believe in grading system, right? But they have shown something, right? I mean, every kid is showing something, and we can put all this data in there. Maybe a kid is doing something good, I mean, teachers can put their evaluation in the blockchain, and it's immutable. So down the line, say 15 years down the line, or in their journey, say 10 years down the line, you can evaluate all the data, and you can really find the core competence of the what didn't happen to us. I mean, many of us maybe having had core competence of being a musician, we end up being a banker. So that won't happen, because there is no one, and who will be keeping up all this record. I mean, if you go to a school, you ask them that give me a record. I mean, I'm pretty sure they won't be able to find out a record 30 years back, because they all are having this in paper form. And even if they bring in digital form, it is very difficult. I mean, if you want to find a person's journey, I mean, very few people in this world, I mean, who always started from one school and ended up graduated from the same organization. It's not possible. And many of us, even during our school life, we transferred from one school to another school. So the more you get transferred, it get more difficult to find out your educational journey. But blockchain can solve that. If we can have all this record in blockchain, at any point of time we can get entire educational journey, and that only not only give us, or who is validating, to validate that person's credibility or the score or anything, but also give the insight of the ability, the educational ability of that person, the core competence of it. So going through that data, maybe we'll, in future, if we do really that, maybe in future a really good artist doesn't have to be end up being a civil engineer, or maybe a musician doesn't have to end up being a doctor, or maybe a true potential engineer doesn't have to be end up being a clerk. So that's how blockchain can bring the radical social change to us through education. I think we are running out of time. We have spent more time. I cannot take more question. Uh, just take last question and go. Differentiate between blockchain and hyperledger. There is no difference between hyperledger and blockchain, because hyperledger is a blockchain. So hyperledger one blockchain. It is a private blockchain, and it has its own scope of use, and so not everywhere it can be used, but there's a plenty of scope where the hyperledger can be used. So it is one of blockchain, which is developed and maintained by, not only entirely developed by, but yeah, a lot of Ethereum code came in. But maintained by Linux Foundation. Okay, I have to stop here. We have taken a lot of time. Thank you so much, all of you, being with us for so long. See you next time. Thank you so much. Bye bye.